Howdy and welcome to a Certain Starter Podcast, episode 28. The somewhat regular podcast where we talk about the things that interest us. We should be here every 2 weeks. We had a bit of a gap. We will try and be here every 2 weeks from now on. But I am Guy Hawkins, your host, joined with Tim Watts and Andy Coram.
Some sort of weird
It was the American
gross
thing. It was the American thing. It kind of, I should have just kept going with it. To my left, to my right.
That is quite a good comedy
Shall
accent.
I keep it going?
If you
Try to
can.
say
No,
how
I
long-
can't.
if
I
you
won't
can.
be able to keep a straight face throughout.
It's alright, it's audio. Mostly audio. There's a bit of video. Hi everybody watching the video.
Yes.
Cool, yeah, check us out on YouTube. Blah, 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 blah. We'll do that at the end. All right, so we've got 3 things to talk about today. I'm going to talk about subscription services that we all know and love and use. And you guys are going to talk about...
I want to talk about just kind of a bit of a break from what we normally talk about and a bit of new stuff that's kind of coming up to do with digital technology and how it affects predicting future health conditions, I should say.
That sounds swell.
It's more exciting than I just made that sound.
Well, that's excited.
Okay, great.
That'll bring everyone along. Andy, what do you got?
I'm going to talk about real-time motion capture, specifically facial and rendering, and the implications of that in the future.
How many times are you going to use the word facial during your... Because I
Probably quite a lot.
I can't guarantee I'm going to keep a straight face during that.
Keep a straight facial.
I'm gonna use it more now, just because you said that.
Fine. I'll be forced to bring out the American accent.
Okay.
I'll combat nasty humour with stereotypical American accent. All right, cool. Before we get on, any other little bits and pieces of news? Anything anyone has done that's been of interest? You think might be of interest?
No, you should have asked us that you were going to ask that because
No, because it's spontaneous.
yeah, but
Yeah, we promised we wouldn't ask that question. Cause
No, I know. You don't have to answer it. If you just go, no, not really. I've been spending 3 days working with a helmet cam doing POV stuff.
Oh,
which
is that
has
good?
been interesting. It's been interesting, yeah.
So you were wearing the helmet?
I
cam?
wasn't wearing it.
All right.
I fell for Barney Batchelor, who was.
Did you watch like a monitor? Did you feel like you were in someone's head?
No, not really. I mean, that's what you're supposed to feel. But, I mean, every now and again you see the hands come out and wave, point at stuff and grab a cup of coffee and do stuff like that. And it kind of goes, oh, yeah, that's what it's kind of like to be in POV. But no, it was interesting. It was a really heavy rig. So, yeah, Barney had a hell of a time given how hot it is at the moment. Yeah, if you can't tell, we're not all wearing shorts, but we should be. Tim should be wearing shorts.
I should be. You're right.
Because it is warm in here and the heating's not on and the window's open.
But talking of helmet cams, that really reminds me of that. What was it even called? Like first person experience chat roulette combination.
Oh yeah.
Or the game they made.
Yeah, it was like an experience that they made for some people.
Zombie thing.
Yeah, for anybody who's listening to this who doesn't know what I'm talking about, you need to go and type into YouTube something to do with FPS chat roulette.
Yeah,
and hope that it's safe for work.
Yeah, I think we've mentioned it on a previous podcast, but yeah, it was. I guess we're not going to explain what chat roulette is, but you went into chat roulette and popped up with your next chat partner, and you were in a sort of POV field of view, and suddenly stuff started happening, and you basically had control over that person.
Yeah.
Fighting zombies.
And later one where
It's
you
good.
controlled Hitman, like the game.
Yeah.
What was the rig they used for that?
It probably would have been something similar.
It's probably just a GoPro, wasn't it?
Well, a GoPro would have been lighter. The GoPro allows you to use it for slightly longer. We had a Sony AS7. So it's a skydiving helmet, and then there's a monitor in front for your vision. So you're literally using that as your eyes, essentially. And then there's the camera, and there's a whole lot
Is
of
the
batteries
camera
and weights
above
at the
that
back.
or in front of that?
The camera's kind of... we had 2 characters. One was the POV camera. The guy was quite tall, and our actress was quite short. So we actually moved the camera quite low, so it ended up being sort of just around his mouth.
That must have been weird for him to see like everything slightly shorter.
Yeah. There were a lot of times because he had to carry an iPad
Like,
around and open car
he'd
doors and
miss
stuff
things.
like that, and like the depth is
Yeah.
like it was a fairly wide lens, and he was just constantly grabbing into thin air and pointing at things. Like we did a scene today where he was on a phone, like he was making a phone call, and he goes to do the phone, and he just like it's like drunkenly using a phone, just goes jab, but it didn't look that convincing, so probably cut that bit out. But no, it looked like fun. So yeah, there you go. See?
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's good.
Cool.
No one saw any interesting cats while they were cycling over today.
Interesting cats. No, why is there a dead one?
No,
Oh.
No, I just thought that'd be popular.
just like cats.
Oh. Yeah, no.
Fine.
Sorry.
Well, who wants to go first? I went first last week.
I'm happy to go first. Mine is quite brief, to be honest, depending on what we talk about.
Well, people like brief.
Yes.
Congratulations, Andy.
Done. So I saw two things recently in the news, and it's almost enough to make me think about it as a whole topic. One of them was Microsoft has supposedly been working on a little side project which looks at your search history in Bing and predicts you having pancreatic cancer.
No.
Is this
Before you get diagnosed.
is this so like if you type in pancreas hurts?
Yeah, presumably it's like checking off a
Like-
load of symptoms, like, how regularly somebody searches for those symptoms. Do they search for strange bruises and other things? So anyway, it's like, it sort of points to a really interesting aspect that I hadn't really thought much about, which is that your data actually might be used to sort of work out a disease.
When you're going to die.
If you're ill.
Like, because you have so much more time with a search engine than you do with your doctor, generally speaking. And you might search for things thinking it's quite anonymous and whatever else that you might not say to your doctor. So I just thought that was super, super interesting.
Does that validate the kind of maybe the misconception the doctors don't want you to do that? They don't. It seems like a bad idea to search for symptoms online
I think,
and to get freaked out. And
I think the cool thing about this,
go and see a doctor.
I mean, you're absolutely right. Like, people searching on WebMD for
yeah.
I've got a headache, and they come in and saying like, I've got brain tumor,
I think
right?
my leg has fallen.
Yeah, obviously wastes a lot of doctors' time. So obviously that aspect is a bad idea. However, if you had a slider on your Google account or your Bing slider, which was like, notify me on any pertinent health information, right? And you kind of just went the rest of your life just doing what you do, and then it said maybe you should go to your doctor and just check that everything's okay with your pancreas or whatever. Actually, that's quite cool.
Your computer's going to go, you're masturbating a lot recently. Maybe you should go see a relationship therapist.
Well, yeah.
I mean, no, but that's the thing. Like, will it take into account stuff like that? That's like a search history based thing. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I think
Do you have to sign up?
if
for
you
this?
were abnormal, perhaps it would tell
Do you
you.
have to?
What's
Is
abnormal?
this something that they can implement by default, or do you have to sign
So,
up?
as far as I know, this is nothing that they plan on launching or rolling out. This is literally just like a research project that they've done.
Yeah.
There are obviously, it obviously looks like a sensible thing to think about more, right? If people can essentially get diagnosed earlier on severe diseases like that, I think pancreatic cancer has something pretty bad, something like 8%. 5 or year more life expectancy. It's one of the worst because it's like in the middle of your body. It's really hard to treat. So actually, it's probably, quite useful. And I just thought that was super interesting. And tying into that, literally pretty much the same day or the next day, I saw a story, or I listened to a TED talk by a guy called Mariano Sigman. And what he was talking about was research that they were doing. He started talking about how they wanted to find out at what sort of point in our cultural history that we kind of came up with this concept of introspection, as in, thinking about things within ourselves, as it were. But the problem is, if you do like a search for introspection, you don't really get many results.
How would you define introspection? I'm trying to think, like, if you're an introvert, is it like what?
Introspection is like looking within yourself, I guess.
Are you talking about in a sort of philosophical manner?
Yes. So it's like, it's one of these concepts that potentially didn't exist a long time ago, but it's something that's quite commonplace now.
Yeah.
And I won't go down that too much, but basically one of the ways that they decided to approach this was that they would, because they had like a load of like historical texts, but they couldn't really search for that specific word because that specific word basically didn't ever come up.
It's more of a concept.
Yeah, it's a concept, exactly. So trying to search for a concept's really hard. So what they did was they created like a spatial dictionary where they put all the words that were related next to each other. And they did this using the methodology or the assumption that things that are related to each other come up in the same sentence or maybe paragraph or maybe book. So the more times like words come up in the same sentence, the stronger they are spatially correlated.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea is something like I don't know, it's hard to think. Picture and divorce isn't necessarily that strongly spatially correlated, but something like balloon and toy might be quite strongly spatially correlated. Mm-hmm. That way, you build up this massive map of words, and then you can start looking through your texts for these kind of groups of words, and you start to get a better idea of whether there is a sort of concept that is close to that. Anyway, you should really listen to this TED talk. It's much better than me. But what they went on to do is that what I thought was really interesting was they could. So what they thought they could do maybe is that maybe they could look at the correlation between the words you use, i.e. this sort of spatial map of words that you use when you text, when you email, when you talk, whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe there was a correlation between that and psychosis. And what they did was they did a load of experiments, they did loads of stuff, and it was basically all a failure. But then they had the idea, okay, maybe it's not necessarily about which kind of area of words that people are using. Maybe it's about the distance between these groups. So, for example, somebody might be talking about cars and then they suddenly might switch to talking about something completely unrelated. And when they did that, they had a very small sample size, like 34 people. But when they did that, they predicted with 100% accuracy who went on to develop psychosis.
Because they randomly jump from one thing to another.
Yeah, exactly.
I know people like this.
That's the thing. Like, I'm guessing. That's the thing. I'm guessing.
I be
Like, if you look through
obviously
anybody's
a lot of
text
people
history,
can be quite
odd.
Yeah, a lot of people can be odd. A lot of people can whatever. This certainly isn't some kind of like amazing, like, oh, now we can predict everything about everybody. It's just like these are both technologies which essentially look at your chat history or whatever and go, maybe something's up here.
Yeah, no, it can. It's kind of like, it's almost as if it's like the subconscious coming out in text. It's like if you're searching for something, and like let's say you just put the word help in it, it's like almost like that coming out within what you're searching for is maybe like a I don't know, cry for help or whatever, and like that could be analysed as like that person's got some kind of problem based on like some like weird thing they searched for. It might not be directly like, how do I get help? It might just be something that they've never searched for before, and then that plugs into this algorithm and it goes, they're now on a watch list for like like committing suicide. It's like that is good, but it has pretty big, it's like that whole implication thing. It's like Andy was saying at the start, is this something you opt into or is it constantly running? Because I like the idea that it's constantly running, but then at the same time, people are going to find out a ton of stuff about you, and it's like you might suddenly it's like pre-crime in Minority Report. Someone's going to knock on your door and go, "You're going to commit a crime," and you're like, "Why?" It's like, because you search for this, and this, and that can be like linked to the fact that you're going to be crazy when you're older and go kill kids, and you're like, "Oh, all right then, take me away."
I guess
Right, but presumably the response to that wouldn't be "you're in jail." The response would be
Everybody
"Please,
runs.
like, do you want to speak to somebody, right? Or you
Yes.
are on a watch list.
I mean,
Yes.
I guess it's like if it's something that adds value or has a convenience factor to people, they'll sign up to it. Like Google now, where it sort of tracks you. I mean, Google now knows where I live and knows where I work and all these things. And I've never told it this; it just works it out.
You like that stuff though, right?
Well, it's handy because it tells me how long it'll take to get to work, and
also creepy.
Sort of like,
Yeah.
and creepy.
This is the world we live in, basically,
But
right?
I can
like
sort of
Everything
see-
is really useful and really creepy.
No, because it'll be like instead of like just taking you from like your work to your home, it'll go, okay, to get home today it's going to take you 20 minutes. I think you should take a detour to Boots and buy some antidepressants. And then your car, because it's owned by Google, will drive you there anyway, regardless of whether you want to or not. And then a robot will just shove them in your car, and then you'll get home and your worker robot at home will pack it, and then when you're asleep, it will shove it down your throat.
Yeah, this is the future.
I'm looking forward to it already.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
thought it was just really interesting because this feels slightly like emergence, slightly like this is the point at which people are starting to get quite serious about analyzing other people's health.
It's like we can do this and we can do this, and people can go, oh, okay, that's good. This is good. This is good. This is good. And then it's like one of those things. You kind of give up your like human rights at some point when they start kind of like, I guess, taking it too far.
Well, I don't know. I think you're making a leap to dystopian society,
It's the only way to go. It's the only way to go. It's the only way to go.
which may happen. Who knows?
This is
But
where all this goes back to the where we were talking
Exactly.
about future films, and they're always dystopian.
Yeah.
It's always
Exactly.
a dystopian future. You
Yeah.
rarely get a utopian future.
But I think there is potential for this to do good, and I think like every other thing that comes up in terms of Facebook or whatever else, it's like if companies overstep the bounds, probably they will basically just lose market share and so not do that.
But be plugged into advertising, right? Because it will be. I mean, here's another creepy example. Your online.
It'll certainly be plugged into healthcare.
But yeah, well, like in
in the
America,
States.
what about
Yeah.
insurance?
Yeah, that'll be massive.
Surely you,
Massive.
but
But no, I see.
maybe
I see
it's a
it.
disadvantage then signing up to it because your insurance premiums will go massively up if you show signs of having potentially having a serious illness.
I think it's more likely
So I
that,
can't see
that premiums will go down if you subscribe to this service because you
They'll
would find
catch
out
it
earlier
early.
They
rather
wouldn't
than
have
paying
to-
for really
yeah.
expensive
Yeah,
treatment.
yeah, they
later.
wouldn't have to work on you so much.
So I suspect that's more likely.
I'm
But,
so-
but anyway, I mean,
so go down the dystopian route. I just feel
Yeah,
like
I can't help
I just
myself
feel like
either.
the next time I like maybe I want to buy a cat, and it's gonna go instead of taking me to the cat page, it's just gonna take me to a dating site.
yeah.
And
You,
then-
you
and
want
then-
a dog? No.
And then
you want
because
a
I,
baby?
but the thing is, because I believe in the system, I will have that redirect and be like,
Go, yes.
oh, the powers that be probably think my life would be better if I did get a girlfriend instead of the cat. When actually maybe it's trying to.
I mean, I think there
Force
is
me into that
there is
instead
a
of
very, very
making me
real thing, which is that it could be very possible to become reliant on it. And
So you wouldn't go to the doctors unless you get
so
an
yeah,
alert.
yeah.
for
So
instance.
for example, the like the Google driverless cars, they had a massive crisis at one point into the development. They were making great progress. Then they let other Google employees test it out because it was doing so well, and then they got all these reports of people like basically like working on their laptops whilst driving and stuff like that, and they were like, "That's not good. You're supposed to be like paying attention."
Yeah.
But they trusted the technology
Yeah.
and like the company so much that they were just like, "It's fine."
There must be.
So they basically abandoned the project at that point, or just went back to the drawing board, and they were like,
They were like,
"Okay, what are we
could
going to
happen.
do?" And they've basically taken the solution, which is like it just has to do everything, and you have to trust it, and there is no middle ground. And I think that's super interesting. Like, maybe it will get that point with health. Like, you know, if people do rely on it as an advisor, like that's quite a problem, isn't it, potentially?
Yeah. You just reminded me of a video I saw recently of someone test driving a Tesla self-driving car in traffic, and is moving traffic, and he's fast asleep. There's someone filming him from another car, and he's just completely
could have been way worse.
Asleep.
Could have been doing way
yeah,
worse stuff than sleeping.
This is going to become a common thing when self-driving cars.
That film will be one of the highest viewed films on YouTube. Will be the first people having sex in one of those cars, and that will be top of the list for that year.
Thanks for that.
Yeah.
Sorry, it will.
Well, maybe that's
It will.
a nice segue onto Andy's topic.
How?
I don't know. I want you to make that link.
Okay. So I wanted to talk about real-time rendering, and I mean we've covered real-time rendering engines before and the implications, but I think this sort of technology seems to be going so quickly. I've seen some amazing stuff on real-time sort of motion capture.
Could you explain rendering? I'm just aware that I know some people who might listen to this and they might not understand the concept of rendering.
Yeah, and I think originally you framed it to me more along like real-time effects, which I think makes
guess
more
is
sense.
real-time effects. Yeah. So so what me and Tim do, and you to some extent as well, we do post-production work on video. So
I add lens flare to things.
Yeah,
That's not what you guys do.
well, you grade stuff. You do a bit of animation, but we
do the cool
add,
stuff, guy.
So so we get the footage and then we add
2009.
stuff to it, which can be quite sort of time consuming, and you have to render. So you have to compose all the shots with all the different elements, the graphics, the video, color grading and stuff like that.
So yeah, you might like work on a long time, like for example, making, let's just say, fire, right? And you make like the effect of there being a fire when there wasn't one in reality. But then the computer has to work it all out. It has to work out what do those light rays do, what shadows do they cast, and that process is called like rendering, right?
Yeah.
Which takes longer than what we call real time. Real time, the idea is that it can calculate all of that at the same speed that you can watch it.
So yeah, I shoot something on a camera and I can watch that back 25 frames a second, whatever, no problem. I want to add fire to that. I have to first put it through a process that takes 4 times the amount of time to watch through to come out the other side to the point where I can then watch it at real time.
Yeah.
Please say it.
Yeah.
No, I'm just trying to think. I'm trying to think of the best way to describe it, because we know it as a given. It's just like when you try to describe that to a layman who's not watching blue bars all day. It's like, how do you?
I'll make one last attempt at it.
Okay, good.
So you have like you start off with a video, and you say, okay, I can play that video, and it plays back, let's say 25 or 60 frames a second, doesn't matter. Then I add something on top of that video. Maybe it's just like a smiley face or whatever it is. That has like a cost to the computer to calculate. If the cost is quite small, it can do all of that in 1/25 of a second. And so those calculations it can calculate at the same time as you're viewing each frame of the video. However, if you make like 1 billion smiley faces, that's just a lot more calculations. So it has to wait longer than 1/25 of a second before it can show you that image. So rendering is this process of taking seconds, minutes, hours per frame of video to generate the final result. And then once that's all outputted as a file, you can then watch it back real time, 25 frames a second or 60 frames a second. Makes some kind of sense?
I don't know. Let us know. Does that make any sense? Are we talking bullshit? Okay, sorry, Andy.
The majority of our work we do is in post-production is not in real time. We're having to wait for renders. I guess part of your job is real time because you're filming stuff, and then and you can do some real time editing, but you don't do it. Yeah,
No.
But so the technology now is getting quite advanced in terms of computer power and stuff. So the number of frames you can do it, the frame rate you can edit at, render at, is becoming, kind of close to real time and real time rendering. So, and now the actual filming process, you can take the real time filming information, so the footage from the camera, any tracking information, so motion tracking. We've seen the body suits with the bobbles on. I can't remember what they're called. That
Ping pong suits.
Ping pong suits. So you can track a human
you will have seen that in Lord of the
movement. So you can take that information, and also now there's some quite advanced facial tracking. Facial tracking rigs that also do take that information, so you can combine all that and actually film and render stuff all at the same time. So you've got live actors acting stuff out, you've got cameramen who are moving around the action. All that information is going into the computer and rendering out almost instantly to a video that is playing at the same speed as the action which is happening, which I think is amazing. And I think at the moment it tends to be they use it a lot in they call it previs, which is pre-visualization. So when they're working with the actors, they can visualize how stuff's going to look, or a sort of estimation of how it can look in
just briefly to explain that point. Almost all films these days have elements of green screen where you make up the environments behind them and stuff like that. When actors are performing that, the green screen space is usually not that big, and there is nothing really to look at other than green and a cameraman. And so for actors, it's a very, very hard thing to imagine. You're in this completely made up environment that doesn't even exist yet because it will be made later, and not have anybody or anything to necessarily act against, right? So this is where pre-visualization comes in, and this is why it's super cool, is that it's like a sort of draft version of what it's going to look like in the end, but the actors can see that as they're acting, so they can see that they're in this kind of environment. Maybe it's a dark forest or whatever. They can see their movements in that forest. They can see the trees' shadows cast over them, so they get real feedback about them in the scene.
And I think also the director as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're getting real time, and they can sort of see, how the action's going to portray. Oh, this would be a good camera angle, and they can actually physically do it. And I know that's kind of something you've thought about and kind of.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these things.
You like to, think about physically moving a camera around.
Yeah. So a lot of these things. I mean, as well as we can describe it, go and watch a making of probably Lord of the Rings. They do it the best, and they've used all the techniques that we're sort of talking about here. So the thing that excited me about watching the Lord of the Rings making ofs is they have the scene. Let's assume you've seen Lord of the Rings. I'm not going to describe that that film trilogy, but there's a scene,
spoilers.
Yeah, there's a scene in the first film where they go into the dwarf caves and they have a fight around a tomb, and there's a cave troll. And that entire scene is mostly like a green screen set, so that doesn't exist. You maybe have the floor that exists, but there's walls and everything else that doesn't exist. None of the cave troll exists either. That's an entirely CG character. You might have someone representing that, but the cave troll is like 4 times bigger than a human being. So what they did for Peter Jackson, so he could figure out where he wanted the camera to go, is they built that in computer space and allowed him to put the camera in and point it at these already created things. So the walls were there. The enemies were there, so the cave troll was there, and he could see what it would be like if the camera was here, there, and everywhere. So when he gets to the set, he understands, and everyone sort of understands what they're aiming for. They know from that camera angle, the sort of cave troll's head's not going to be cut out of shot and things like that. And it's just really handy. It's like if you could then take that to the set instead of doing that beforehand, because that had to be done on an effects stage. If you can take that technology to the set, then everything works a lot faster and everyone can see what they're aiming for, and that's
so yeah. These days you can.
Yeah, so I've
these
seen
days
I've seen a camera rig that actually uses rather than having to have a points cameras to track points on the camera rig
Yep.
and stuff. It actually has a stereo camera mounted underneath the main camera, and it's in real time reading the footage that's it's seeing and generating a 3D kind of environment and working out where the camera is and taking information from the the focal length and the zoom and all this kind of thing. So all that stuff's kind of here as well. And I was looking at a video that Tim showed me earlier that had some real-time facial tracking. So it was actually for a game called Hellblade, and they did a talk to a live audience, and they showed some footage which looked initially like a cutaway from a game, but like very high quality rendering using the Unreal Engine, which I think we've discussed about, which is traditionally a game engine, but has a lot of uses, including VR. But it turns out that they were actually using a live actor behind the stage who had a rig on her head with camera and points on her face. And that data was being rendered in real time to the screen. And her voice was obviously voicing the character on the screen and stuff. And it was really impressive. I was, amazed at the quality of the graphics, and you could see there was a slight kind of delay in it.
There's also there's definitely not a true yet one-to-one mapping of someone's expressions. They're like, to make it work and make it not glitchy, they're kind of constrained within a certain range and all these kinds of things. However, and so watching the performance honestly didn't really sort of quite cross the threshold for me in terms of feeling something. I mean, obviously everybody doing it and everything was super hyped, and they were like, you really get the emotion of the performance and stuff like that. Okay, yeah, I don't think it's quite there yet.
No, but this is it. I mean,
but that's really handy. Like, let's say, just trying to come up with another example of the way that I could kind of see that being used in its kind of rudimentary stage. It's like you've got Guardians of the Galaxy, and you've got the lineup of all the characters in that film. 3 are human, and 1's a raccoon, and 1's a giant tree.
Yep.
So you can have the lineup shot of them walking towards you. And you can have you can shoot that with the 3 real people, and then just leave space for the other 2 guys, and you have that as real footage. You can go away and put into that whatever you want. But you can also have this other thing that's recorded, which is these other guys walking in place, and then something can go to that output, and you can overlay a rudimentary 3D figure on that person walking towards. So you have your rough footage, your raw footage, and that's fine. But you also have this kind of rough but not bad version that you could then go and show to people and go, that's probably how it's going to look. That's actually really close to how it's going to look. We will fine tune it. That's incredible, because you spend way less time going, we should probably shoot that again like this just in case, and the effects might work better here.
But actually it could be to a certain degree used for a final output as well. Like if the characters are walking up towards the camera and then they all just turn around and they like hug each other and pat each other on the back.
Yeah.
They can do that, and all the motion capture data that you get there can be used later to sort of polish the 3D camera. 3D character.
So I mean, it can't be too long off where you could actually do sort of 100% CGI kind of video for a TV series, for instance, where in the past, you'd have a massive budget for doing anything that's CGI, and that the the time scale. You've got loads of time for post production doing, all the stuff. Whereas, you could basically shoot it all and just render that out to video.
Well,
and then just do
you're absolutely right. I mean, obviously things like cartoons have been doing it quite optimized quite quickly for quite a long time, but for sure, I mean,
but can you imagine, like, I'm just thinking of like live TV. It's like I don't watch it, but like EastEnders do their live show every like Christmas, and it's like, imagine the implications that has for that show. It's like what you could and couldn't have, because you're very constrained with a show like that, because I mean all your sets are close together, so you can just about get it done.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you want to make that a bigger show and not break away from that live aspect, because live is quite cool when it's done right. You can have someone in an entirely different city or country, and you can break away from that like square of London.
I mean, I agree that's exciting and that's cool, but it's also very niche.
You think?
I think like the number of live performances like EastEnders is pretty low. I mean, things like stage performances or something like maybe, but
this is kind of
make it. You could be like, well, let's do it live. It makes like the TV production way quicker. So you're given that you've.
But
got
you
that
also
ability.
lose so much control. Like, just because people can do things or say things or something could go wrong.
So,
yeah.
That's why I don't think people necessarily choose to do it that way, no matter how good it goes.
Yeah.
So I mean, it kind of leads on that to what I was going to then sort of go on towards, was the whole, so as you kind of said, live performance, which I think TV and that kind of thing less so, but I can imagine. I mean, we talked about it briefly today about if you imagine theatre.
Yeah.
You go and see live actors perform on a stage, but if you could take that and rigged up, actors in a studio with facial tracking and all this sort of thing, and then view that in VR, then you're getting a very immersive kind of theatre experience that's live. And
It's the same thing, though.
I think, well, no,
instead of watching it through the VR thing, you're watching it through a TV. So those things are kind of the same.
Yeah.
You're just putting it in a different.
But you
monitor.
imagine,
Yeah, but the difference is like, okay, so there's actually a guy who did this very recently, or he's got a show going at the moment. I'm sorry, I don't know his name, but
Brian.
Everybody in the audience does have a set of headphones, and he sets up a sort of proper, like, mannequin's head with microphones in the right places and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then he does this whole sort of monologue thing, and everybody watches him, but they all hear him like he's next to them.
Yeah.
And he will go up and he'll whisper into people's ears and things like that. And it looks quite cool, and it looks a little bit creepy as well. But it's a bit like that. It's like, sure, it's kind of similar to watching something on TV, but on the other hand, somebody could be really up in your face.
Yeah.
Visually and with sound.
Yeah.
But they're in the they're miles in front of you.
I suppose
on the stage.
that becomes nice when you kind of take into account like positional tracking for yourself. Like if you're in your room and you're looking in VR and you can move around that square, it's like being able to get away from them slightly and then them come at you a little bit more and then come at you a little bit more, even though you're trying to get away. That gives it something kind of quite neat.
And I think you.
Well, if they're holding a gun to your head, it's like that becomes way real when they're actually getting a little bit closer, rather than that's their position and you can walk away from it, but they're always there.
Yeah.
It's like they actually know where you are and they come towards you, and that's a real person, not like a generated.
So I don't know if
character.
you could do that for 100 people at the same time, but yeah.
Well, you could have, if you were stuck to one point, you could have.
You could have point, but
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But certainly,
I think there's a certain
it's
aspect of it being live as well that would kind of excite you.
Yeah,
and
I mean, again, this is going to tie into a bigger subject as well, which is like live experiences, and when you start introducing sound, smells, everything else, obviously.
But anyway, so to sort of summarize, I think the technology's kind of, at the moment, it's still quite sort of niche and being used a lot in sort of pre-production and all this kind of thing. But the sort of the future of it, as the cheap technology improves and it gets cheaper and stuff, in terms of kind of experience stuff and tying that in with VR, I think it's quite exciting.
It's the coolest thing. It's great when stuff like that happens, because there's already a use for it. There's already a use for VR, but it's like, what can you do beyond that? Because it's an entirely new technology that is kind of like, yes, it's born from other stuff, but it's suddenly like taken quite a big jump to the next stage, and it's like, well, where do you go from there? It's like suddenly everyone's kind of on a level playing field and goes, well, actually, I think we could do this, could do this, and no one's going, nah. They're going to go, oh yeah, maybe. I don't know. Let's try it.
Yeah.
And that's really cool. I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm going to change what I was going to talk about.
Oh, okay.
Because I was with my parents this week, and my dad saw a documentary about World War II, and he said something to me that I was kind of like, I'm not sure you could do that. But what they used to do, and I'm not a big advocate for 3D, but this is probably the best use for 3D technology, is they would put
3D as in when you're talking about 3D
anaglyph.
No, just 3D
glasses.
Just 3D.
Oh, okay.
Because
like rendered 3D.
No. So I'm not a fan of 3D in films and stuff. This is just a very good use of 3D. So they would take
Just clarify 3D. Like, what do you mean?
a 3D image.
Wearing 3D,
3D
glasses. So you
Well,
get
yeah,
a
you
sort
need to
of
view it.
stereo,
Yeah.
stereo vision.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry,
Yeah.
I just because there's
What's-
lots of
What's the
Well, you
what are
get-
the other ones?
you get 3D animation and that kind of thing.
Okay. It's World War II. They're not doing
no,
that. But no, it's crazy because it's like maybe you are right to ask that because it's far more advanced than I thought they would have been at that time. But basically, they would fly like a Spitfire or something very fast and low over like enemy territory, and instead of there being guns on that plane, there'd be a 3D camera, and they would go snap, 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 snap.
Ah, yes.
And then they would
No, I
take
have
that.
seen
Yeah,
this.
it's really cool. And they would basically use that information to come back to base and like map out the battlefield. So instead of taking a flat 2D image of it and going, okay, well, we don't know the exact distance or what that is, you've got a 3D image. So you can basically see what depth is. So you can work out
It's
distance.
like those stereo.
Yeah, you look at a Viewmaster.
images.
Yeah. I don't know if I've got one here anymore. There used to be one behind. But yeah,
I do love the fact you have one. But yes.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So yeah, it was like that, and they were basically using that to basically figure out, okay, well that's a base, that's chimney, that's this, that's that, instead of having this kind of crummy like 2D image where they don't know that much. And I was like, that's after all this time of me trying to think of a good thing to use 3D for, and it's like they did it like in the 40s.
Well, if you want to think of military possibilities, there's probably quite a few.
No, I know, but like that's. I know 3D images have been
Well, that's-
around for a
isn't
while,
that
but I
how
never
they
thought
used-
they would have like actually implemented it with a massive like it was successful. It's like I never thought they would have got like that far. I thought they would have been like that sort of party work.
Do you know? I saw another good story the other day. Do you know the sort of central display in X-Men, where like the view of the city kind of comes up like a pin. What do you call those things? What do you call the pin things that you put your hand in?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I
I know what you
I
mean.
saw that. Yes. Yeah. The where you stick your face on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in X-Men, there's one that comes up from a central display.
Yeah.
And they basically like pan over this harbour view.
That's what that film is. I was trying to find that reference for some effects work that we were trying to do, and I was like,
right.
that happens in a film, and I can't remember what the film is.
X-Men.
Is it X-Men?
I'm not sure which one, but yes.
All of them.
Anyway, apparently, this was like 2009, 2010, something like that. Some guy in the US military basically went, that's what we need. They've basically been working on this problem for a long time, which was like, we need like 3D topographical
Yeah, you need a sand table
maps. Exactly.
It's reusable.
Exactly.
That's really cool.
And so yeah, after seeing X-Men, went away and basically commissioned this company to make one. So
Does it work?
yeah, I mean it doesn't look as cool as in X-Men, but
No.
and you can't really even find any footage on it. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
But it's essentially exactly what you'd imagine. A load of pins that come up like that, and they just deform depending on whatever 3D data you send it.
I wanted to make one about them about 10 years ago, but because I spoke to my Graham. Hi, Graham.
To my Graham.
I spoke to my friend Graham.
My Graham.
My friend Graham, who about doing this, but the actuators apparently weren't good enough or small enough to be able to do it. But they obviously maybe
It's great
come
though.
across
It's
that.
like that.
Well, it's just like one of those things. It's like a
But
huge expense and everything
yeah,
else, and
well,
it will take up like a whole.
because I've
desk,
seen
but-
those ones that do, like you can do a sand.
Yeah, so they project on top of sand.
Yeah.
But like this is just one of those stories which I thought that's so cool
Yeah.
that a sci-fi film
Yeah.
has basically inspired new technology,
Yeah.
like, you know, right then and there.
Well, it's like we were saying earlier. It's like I like the fact that there's suddenly a time when we can like innovate things. It's like there are things there that no one quite knows what to do with, but it's like go and try some stuff and see what sticks. But it's like during the war, like that's the best time for that kind of thing to happen because there's suddenly like there are massive things at stake. So we've got to try everything. So massive leaps get made because they just try anything and they do crazy stuff. Like they do that whole thing where they try and teach dolphins to blow up submarines and stuff like that, and it kind of worked. It's like it's just weird that it takes a war to get to it. But, making that crazy stuff. I mean, I think 90% of it maybe doesn't work, but 10% just crazy enough to work. It's like wow.
Well, apparently the bouncing bomb, the bouncing
real,
bomb
right?
in the
and the pigeon guided bombs as well.
Yeah.
But sorry, Andy.
Yeah, apparently the bouncing bomb, if that hadn't worked, they just wouldn't like. You know, someone said, "What if it doesn't work?" They said, "We just won't say anything. We just won't tell anyone." And so there's probably other things that we don't know about that they tried and didn't work. So they were just like,
"Oh, of course,
the Holocaust."
Well, there were probably some projects that are like 100 years old and still going.
There was actually a thing I saw recently where they've filmed Holocaust survivors, but from multiple angles with a sort of camera array, and they've found a way to then project that back onto a flat screen. Then again, they've just got an array of projectors, but they've basically been able to create a hologram of these
that's pretty cool.
Holocaust survivors. But then they've pre-recorded all these responses to questions.
I don't understand the question. Could you please rephrase?
Similar thing, but so they've taken sort of like the two, like there's some crazy number, like 200 different responses to different questions. So they take sort of commonly asked questions to Holocaust survivors and recorded the responses, and then they use a voice recognition system. And this thing's going around, schools and things, and
that's amazing.
The audience can ask
really
questions. It's online. I'll
that like because I remember they started doing that when I think like Forrest Gump was the first one to do it when they were basically like reinventing like famous people who had died.
Oh,
and
they
were basically like they would get the representation of them there, and then they would augment their face to make them say stuff like they did it in Superman Returns as well, and that was kind of a projection thing. And I saw War of the Worlds, and it's narrated by I'm going to get it wrong. It's like Orson Welles. Yeah, cool. So they had a polystyrene face they would project him onto, and they animated his whole mouth to make him say those things. And it's like that's kind of like the educational step.
Yeah.
But is that on a screen or is that like a physical?
So it's
like,
a flat screen, but like you can. So I don't know. I don't know whether how I don't know what the word is between
it's sort of stereoscopic effect.
Yeah, so whether the angle is I guess it depends how close you are. So maybe if you're closer you get two images in different eyes and then it'll be sort of more
but I just 3D. Think what an awesome idea to try
but
and
you can walk, like they had the camera
immortalize these people who are nearly presumably at the end of their lives. Yeah, that's really great.
What did it feel like to nearly die every day?
Did you see the bus to Mars?
The bus to Mars. Is this a?
There was another little project that some people did, and I'm not really sure who or why, but they made a school bus that totally looked like a school bus, and it picked up a bunch of kids.
Oh no!
And then all the clear windows suddenly turned into displays, and they used like these laser sensors on the side of the bus and stuff like that to determine the bumps, the orientation, etc. of the bus.
Wow!
And they mapped that all to this virtual Mars.
Landscape.
So all these kids were like on the bus looking out the window, and then suddenly they're basically driving on the surface of Mars, and they're going around corners, and they're like.
I want there to be like that one kid that just totally freaks out because he understands, like doesn't quite understand what's going on, but he understands I'm not where I should be. It's just like I want to get off. I can't get off because I'm floating to space.
Yeah.
I
think they might have even had some sort of touch displays, sort of futuristic UI that kids could touch. But it's just like that's so cool. I mean, I don't know where the kind of funding comes in for just something like that, but that's just so cool. They got like every display like handmade, and you know, to do this kind of like trick of going translucent to.
Again, with my parents, and they visited Bletchley Park, and that's now like a big place you can go visit, and it's a museum essentially. But Google gave them the money for that because it's like Google can do the things they do because of all the things they did there. So they just gave a load of money to them to go preserve this and turn it into like an educational place. Apparently, it's really good. Really good. They do a lot of things with sound as well. My parents were sort of saying they take you into.
When did that open? Because I've been to Bletchley Park, but
I think
don't remember it.
Relatively recently, like last 2000s.
Oh no, I've been to the museum since.
I think they keep updating it. Like they did, they obviously updated it when the Imitation Game came out. And I now know that film is.
Isn't there two museums? There's sort of Bletchley Park bit, and then there's the Museum of Computer History or something.
Don't know.
Yeah.
Don't know. Yeah,
but
the imitation game is.
So well, guys, then we started like ending on something that we know nothing about again.
No. It's just it's not the point to go into. It's just the fact that like it's nice that Google are doing something good like that.
Isn't their motto "Don't be evil"?
Google.
Yeah,
that's what an evil company would say. That was their motto.
The evil company would be like, "Don't look evil."
Yeah. It'd be like the instructional video when you get there. It's like how not to dress, and it'd be like all the Bond villains.
How not to look evil whilst you work.
Don't stroke a cat.
Wear baggy t-shirts and shorts.
If you have a scar, we don't want anything to do with you.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. A bit of a diversion, but I felt that was slightly more interesting, given what we were talking about than what I was going to talk about. So I'll park that one for.
You've already got that
for another week. Yeah, my homework is done. Cool. All right. Well, thanks, guys. Unless anybody's got anything else, we'll go away and try and come back in 2 weeks. Yep. Legitimately, this time we'll do it. We'll do it.
Yeah, we do need to keep it a bit more punctual.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. Listen to us, subscribe, watch us, and do whatever else you can do with the podcast. Thanks.
Okay,
bye, everybody.
Bye.